Welcome to Boris Effects Live. Sponsored by Dell, NVIDIA, and Intel.
Hello everyone, we are back and live on Boris Effects Live, and I'm still Ben Brownlee. It's all Continuum today, so if you're interested in seeing what new machine learning tools we've got, or check out some of our brand new filters and transitions, or some of the exciting new particle effects, then you'll hear on the right video. I'm going to be joined by Nick Carraz and John Dickinson to take you inside all of the new GUI Continuum goodness. And we'll also be sharing some quick tips and tricks about what you should be doing to get the most from your new Continuum. And as ever, we're here live to take your questions and read your comments. And to me, that's actually the second best part of the stream. So let's get started. Now, if you want to get involved, you already have everything you need. You've got the screen that you're watching in front of you, and to the right or just underneath it, you'll have a lovely little comment box to tippy tap all your comments and questions in there. And if you're watching on borisfxlive.com, go over and enter our competition for a chance to win one of our big prizes today. All you have to do is scroll down to the bottom of the page and there'll be a little form that looks something like this. Enter in your details and hit the submit button and you will be entered. Of course, full terms and conditions will apply. Yep, so we're live, as you can tell. So ask your questions in chat, please. The more questions we get, the better. I have a few to prime the pump, but I also have my big book of questions with me and I want to get that filled. So one of the other things I want to do before we start to get into the stream itself is say thank you very much to our sponsors, NVIDIA, Dell and Intel, for helping to make this stream happen. It's always good to see it. And of course, a big shout out to Dell Technologies, where you can conquer the complexity of AI with Dell Precision. Power your passion and purpose with NVIDIA RTX GPUs, available now. And if you are working on a computer or you have the internet near you, you might also follow us on all of our socials. So we are here on YouTube. We also have Instagram, FactoryBook, and of course, Twitter X. And if you are one of the cool kids, we are also on Discord. So come and scan that QR code, or if you're too slow to scan the QR code, then just go over to www.boriseffectsdiscord.com. Remember the www. Yeah, we're a big and ever-growing community there on Discord, and we love to see it. So join us over there now. All right, well, let's get into the show proper. We're going to be looking at Continuum, as I said, and there's no one I'd like to talk Continuum with more than my good friend and friend of the show, Nick Carraz. Nick, welcome to Boris Effects Live.
Hello, Ben. It's great to be here.
It's been a while. It's been, what, 2 weeks, maybe?
It's been, yeah, about 2 or 3 weeks. It feels like a lifetime, though, in between those 3 weeks with all of the different things going on behind the scenes here at Boris.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Tell me, what's happened in the last few weeks, then, that you can tell me about?
Well, what I can talk about is last Thursday, we released Continuum 2025, which is very exciting. It has a bunch of new ML features, some new transitions, as well as presets, all combined into one. And those two ML features, both Motion Blur ML and License Plate ML, will be covering today. Behind the hood, there's also a few updated effects that are in the software, and some of my favorite stuff, just when it comes to learning and looking at the immense library of Continuum effects, just the presets that the team on the Continuum side put together.
Yeah, I think that's often a sort of unsung little hero of these releases. Is just how many more presets are put in each cycle. And you know, one of the things that I think we're lucky about here is that we have people who know how to use the effect as well as just kind of like can talk about the effect. So the presets that we put in are actually ones that we've often used in projects ourselves, or the updated presets means that we've figured out a new little trick of how to use the effect in maybe a way that's not so obvious at the start. But I think we'll talk about that in a little bit,
Yeah.
if that's all right with you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more just about the presets and just being able to discover those effects and talking about that later. And but yeah, it's just such a world of discovery when it comes to Continuum. And in my little spiel of covering the things what were in Continuum 2025, I always forget, because it's also a separate app, is Particle Illusion and all the adjustments we've made there as well. Some really nice user to life improvements, not to mention the some of the presets that you've designed actually, Ben. And we'll maybe take a look at that later in the show as well.
Oh, I have absolutely no doubt we're going to take a look at that. But let's start with something else. We've got
Yep.
a growing library of machine learning tools. We don't call them AI tools; they're machine learning tools. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we head over and take a look at the new ones?
Definitely. I think Continuum started introducing ML tools a few versions ago. We started with an upres ML, followed by a denoise ML. And that model, the denoise ML, is now twice as fast that was, I think, 2 versions ago. In 2024.5, we sped up that model. But the story just took off from there to have these usability tools, which would automate your workflow in your chosen LNLE or motion graphic software. So we continued along those lines of creating, in 2024.5, we added retimer ML, which in some ways handles algorithms a little bit better than traditional optical flow algorithms. We added witness protection, and also we have some tools along the ML generative lines inside of particle illusion as well, which can be included in that story. And here again, we have another 2 tools, one segueing from witness protection ML that we're going to take a look at, license plate ML, followed by the additional motion blur ML, which we're going to cover here in a second too.
All right. Well, it's motion blur ML is the one that I'm really excited about. So I think what we can do, I believe, I'm hearing in my ear that we have a past version of you who's around to talk a little bit about Continuum motion blur ML.
I'm so glad he showed up. I really am. I didn't know.
Well, I'm not as glad as I am. Let's roll VT.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Ben. First up for what's new in Continuum 2025 is Motion Blur ML. And we invented Motion Blur ML in order to simplify the process of adding motion blur to your text and graphics, not to mention scenarios where you retime clips. Now, traditional motion blur methods involve optical flow, and sometimes it's a little bit tricky to calculate the pixel motion in a shot. This is where AI comes into play, giving you that pixel perfect motion that you're looking for. Let's start off our journey in Avid and then take a look at another example. I just so happen to have a clip of some mountains here, and I just so happen to have retimed this to 400% using BCC Retimer ML. While there is motion blur in the shot, it is not as realistic now with the new speed percentage that it is flying at. So here's my Avid timeline, and we can see BCC plus Retimer ML on my clip in the effects editor. And what I'm going to do now to this retimed shot is apply BCC plus Motion Blur ML from the BCC Blur category in my effect palette. I'll Option or Alt click in order to add this, and there we can see now BCC Motion Blur ML in the effects stack. Now, the 2 most important controls in this for getting more motion blur happen to be shutter angle and shutter phase, which are based off a real-world camera. In order to have more motion blur, simply take the shutter angle and we can increase this amount. I'll do this to 360. And if we want the shutter phase to be accurate, we want this to be in the negative direction divided by 2 of the shutter angle. So in this case, that would be negative 180. We can already see now more motion blur inside the mountain shot. And with ever in doubt, if you're looking to see a before and after, look no further than either bypassing the effect here at the top in Avid to see the newly added motion blur and the quality behind that. Not to mention, we can do a compare mode, side-by-side comparison, with the original shot here on the left and the motion blur added shot here on the right. Let's take a look at this newly added motion blur now to that retimed mountain shot. So besides using motion blur on retimed clips, another great example is to use it with text and graphics and integrating that into a scene. In one case, you might have text that you've animated from left to right that you just want to add a bit more motion blur to. In another, you might want to have graphics that are implemented into the scene or shot. I just so happen to have one set up here inside of After Effects. What I'd like to do is have this text here follow along with the skateboard here in the scene. So if I take a look at my clip, we can already see that I've tracked the skateboard using Mocha Pro. I'll just click that in order to launch it and select my tracked layer here where I happen to have tracked both translation and scale across the scene. And we can see here a preview of how that text and its plane is now attached to the skateboard. So I want to be able to bring over this translation and scale data over into After Effects. In order to work with this and motion blur ML on that layer, I'm going to export out the tracking data here in the Essentials tab. Under Format, just make sure that After Effects Transform Data, Position, Scale, and Rotation is selected. I'll copy that to the clipboard, and I'll close out of Mocha, don't forgetting to save if required. On my text layer, I'll just make sure my current time indicator is at the beginning, select it, and then press Command V or Control V in order to paste that tracked data. And we can see now the text moving with the skateboard. Now it's not in the position I want. I'll just press A to reveal the anchor point and then just move this into the position that I want in order to not affect the actual position value, which contains the Mocha Pro keyframed effects. So while this text is now moving with the skateboard, I also do want it to have motion blur. Under my BCC blur category, I'll apply motion blur ML to my text layer, and this happens to be in a pre-comp to match the settings of the composition and allow the motion blur to extend beyond the boundary boxes of the text. We see now that motion blur is applied to the text layer. I could start to play around with the shutter angle and shutter phase like I did before, but instead, I actually want to sample motion blur from the skateboard footage layer. And I can easily do that by here where it says source layer, selecting the tunnel graffiti. Now the motion blur is being taken from that skateboard footage layer. I'll make a few changes here where I'll increase the shutter angle here on the text so we can see it a bit clearer, 360, and then that shutter phase in the negative direction. And also make mention that we have control over the direction of the motion blur that we do take from this layer. So right now it's set to forward. I find that the best results for motion blur happen to be both. So that's using a mixture of both forward and reverse motion blur mixed together in both. And last but not least, we should also be concerned with the quality of motion blur that we're sampling. Now by default, the model is set to faster, which will give you a faster render, but not as pristine quality as our other model, which is set to better. Setting this is going to give you a higher quality motion blur for your end results at the expense of more render time. So now we can clearly see as I move between the frames, the motion blur added to the text and taken from the other layer. Since it's a bit strong, I'll reset my shutter angle and shutter phase value just to its defaults of 180 and -90, which should work fine in this example. Last but not least, if you're really looking to dial into the visualization of how these vectors move across the screen, we can change our output mode from motion blur to colorized flow. So colorized flow is a visual representation of the motion vectors of this image compared to other frames. This is why it's going to change colors with the direction as I move between both currently selected and forward and reverse. So definitely something to look at and work into perfecting your motion blur. I'll change the output back to motion blur, and here is the final result. So there you have it, two different ways of working with motion blur ML in your chosen workflow. One is on retimed clips, adding more motion blur for believability, and the other is on text and graphics, whether that be a keyframe graphic that moves across the scene, or in this example where you want a graphic to take in the motion blur from another layer. One other thing to note is that you can actually reference a UV map inside your given workflow as well. Back to you, Ben.
Thank you very much, Nick in the past. Nick in the present, are you still there?
I am still here.
This is
Yeah.
confusing. I
Past
don't
and
think we
present.
really thought about this this format very well. There's too much back and forth in time. I love motion blur. I
Yeah.
think where I use it the most is actually in my editing system, like Premiere or Avid, where there is no
Yeah.
other option for doing native motion blur. I mean, when you've been working with this now, I mean, what type of jobs have you been using it on?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, when I started playing with Motion Blur ML, I immediately started thinking about the wonder of what I felt when I first enabled Motion Blur, when I learned After Effects back in the day, where you would just like apply it to a text layer. And there was just this believability factor of how you notice things in real life when they move fast. Um, and I never had that as a video editor. We're talking like 10, 12 years ago. You just didn't have this access in your native system. So you didn't apply it as much to, let's say, text or graphics or even video. So in playing with Motion Blur ML now, uh, having that additional control in your nonlinear editor, like you just said, Ben, in Resolve, in Final Cut, in Premiere, really just adds an extra layer or flavor into the mix. And the fact that you can tweak this further than settings available in other software, I think just gives you an additional edge for believability inside your timeline or chosen workflow. As for types of footage, like getting to the other part of your question, definitely retimed shots, specifically like speeding up time lapses or action or remapped shots is a huge use for adding motion blur, because the way that it was shot doesn't really acquire that motion blur. And then adding that layer, I think, is really huge. And then another example of that, just in retiming in general, is putting on multiple versions of motion blur for stylistic effects. So I would crank up the motion blur or in my tests to beyond, what was possible with a physical camera with your shutter angle and shutter phased. I would then nest that motion blur and apply it again and get even more streaks out of certain examples, which is really fun. And you could apply that to both that and then your graphic examples to create more motion and energy within a scene.
Well, yeah, but just sort of building on that, I've had this one shot. There's actually a preset in Sapphire in Builder, which is called, I think it's called like Mind Twitch or something, which
Yeah.
I made as a kind of clunky way of getting someone's feeling that everything's a bit off kilter and everything's shaking around and it's all a bit kind of strange. And I was able to replicate that effect without making up tons and tons of nodes, just by using motion blur cranked all the way up to this completely unrealistic number. And at some point you kind of get this sort of weird stylistic bubbling. It's not anything you would use on like a day-to-day basis, but getting all that bubbling and then being able to use mocha masks just to cut stuff out.
Yeah.
It's just really fun. It's just really fun. So
Yeah. And it's
I gotta say, like most of the time I've been using it for like the realistic text and sort of retiming things, but pushing it a little bit further or a lot further just opens up some kind of creative options that I hadn't had before.
Yeah, pushing it further. And you have kind of the best of both worlds with this effect. You can take just 2 or 3 different parameters, play with those, or go a little bit further by changing the model. And like we just said, when you flip in to see the actual colorized flow. So just a lot of additional control that wouldn't even come to you from your standard motion blur effect or way of adding motion blur.
Yeah. I've got a question from the chat.
Yeah.
Tech Mixer asks, are there these available for Final Cut Pro yet, or is it just Avid Premiere at the moment?
Great question. BCC plus retimer ML is not in Final Cut Pro, just to let you know, but you do have the motion blur ML, as well as the other tool that we're about to say, the license plate ML as well, available for you now, as long as you upgrade to Continuum 2025, the Continuum
Okay.
FCP. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and it's worth knowing if we've got like a huge number of hosts that we do support. So if you ever want to know the exact hosts that we're supporting, just head over to the website and go to the Continuum page. It's down at the bottom there.
Yeah.
One last thing.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So 35 Whirlpools asks, what about Resolve? Question mark.
Yes, it's included in Resolve as well. I haven't tried it in Resolve myself, just in terms of motion blur in my tests, but it does work in that as well.
It works.
So you have access to
it. It does work. The only thing I would say is if you want to use a secondary layer, like we saw in your example at the end, you will have to use it in the color page, because the color page is the only area that actually allows you to have a secondary input inside of
supporting the second
Resolve.
note.
Yeah, unless you want to use Fusion, but that's a whole different thing. But we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
If before we move on, I just want to let people know that you can still enter the competition. I didn't even tell you what you could win if you entered the competition today. We're doing a prize draw, as we do on all Boris Effects Live. Go to boriseffectslive.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page and enter your details there. And you could be walking away with a 1-year subscription of Continuum that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the stream. Or one lucky winner is also going to be walking away with a 1-year subscription of the Boris Effects suite. So that's everything that we make, including Continuum, Sapphire, Mocha Pro, Silhouette, Crumple Pop, Optics, Synthesize, Particle Illusion Pro. What have I forgotten? I'm always forgetting one thing, and it's always a different thing. It's everything we make anyway. There's tons of stuff. You want to win this. boriseffectslive.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, enter your details. Full terms and conditions apply. All right, well, that's one of the new machine learning filters that we have inside of Continuum 2025. Nick, should we head back to a past version of View as well and look at some of the other ones?
I think we should. It's so great that multiple past versions of me showed up today along with present me.
It really is. It's like if there's one thing that we needed more of, it was more Nick Haraz's.
I thought the same thing too, and we've
so
delivered.
let's go to Nick Haraz number 3, and let's talk about something else, please. Nick Haraz number 3, roll VT.
All right, thanks, Ben. And once again, this is past Nick, just to avoid any confusion that there might be. We're going to cover the second ML tool to hit Boris Effects Continuum 2025, which is license plate ML. So this was based on user feedback. In 2024.5, we introduced witness protection ML. And when a lot of people tried this effect in order to do the obscuration on multiple faces at once, they were like, this would be great for license plates too. And voila, here we have license plate ML. Let's take a look at it in action. I'm here inside of Premiere Pro, and it just so happens that I have a shot here where I need to apply some privacy to each of the license plates in the scene in order to distribute it. So what I'm going to do is head over to my effects tab by pressing on Shift 7. We'll do a search for license, and under the match move category, I'll double click that effect to apply it to the selected clip here in my timeline. And you should just see if I scrub the timeline forward, all of the license plates in this shot happen to be blurred. Let's head over to the effect controls, and under compare mode, we'll just do a side-by-side comparison to see the original license plates here in the shot and the obscured ones here with the blur. Another thing you could do if you don't go into compare mode is change the view options just underneath that. So setting this to license plate matte allows you to see what this effect sees, all of the license plates here, tracked within the scene. Alternatively, we can use a license plate overlay, which will give you a green colored tint over all of the license plates it sees in the scene. Let me just do a full screen playback from this point for you to see those license plates tracked over time. Now with all BCC Plus effects, we also got the effects editor. So you can always head over there to see different obscuration styles of how you can obscure your license plate. So we have mosaic options, which also include a random animated pattern and different style tints that you could apply as well. Not to mention do some before and after comparisons just to make sure that you have the look that you want. Now, in addition to this, when it comes to privacy, license plate ML is sometimes greatly paired with witness protection ML. I just so happen to have a shot here in my timeline where I have a subject that I don't want to see here on the bike over to the side, and some subjects in the car, not to mention all of the license plates within the shot as well. What I'm going to do is apply, first of all, witness protection ML, and I'll double click to apply that. And we should see, if I zoom in, that we've now blurred out that subject and half of our work is done. I'm also going to just scroll to the left just to show you that in the car, passengers are also obscured as well. So now that we have that part of the job done, I'll do a search for license plate ML, double click it, and that's applied to the clip as well, obscuring all of the license plates. Now let's just do a full screen playback, and we can see it's done a pretty great job of tracking all of those license plates. And with witness protection, we've been able to provide all of the privacy needs we need to accomplish with this shot. Now it should be mentioned that one of the most powerful features about license plate ML is in cases where you might have something that looks like a license plate and license plate ML automatically blurs that, you can use Mocha masking and subtractive masking in order to disclude it from the selection. So anytime, just head over to Mocha Mask, and identifying a plane, you can disclude a license plate from the selection and then invert the selection in the host in order to get what you want. And there you have it, license plate ML, there to obscure objects easily within your scene, masking and tracking them automatically, and also just a great assistant when it also comes to witness protection ML.
Thank you very much, Nick number 3. Nick number 1, talk to me a little bit more about license plate ML. What's some stuff that you weren't able to show in the video there?
Primarily just towards the end, just the putting Mocha into that workflow, I think is such a huge saver of time. And it's very common that there could be several rectangular objects in your scene, and license plate ML sees it and automatically tries to obscure it. So to have that additional control where you can track out and then remove something using Mocha or fully rely on Mocha if required for challenging shots is just that extra bonus. So you have this automatic effect that, will track all the license plates in your scene. And then in those situations where you need something a bit more complex, you have Mocha, which you can rely on as well. So I think it's the best of both worlds, which I equally love about witness protection ML as well. I was just thinking, Ben, like, you're in Europe. What do you think when it comes to this like footage for privacy, just in general, and some of the laws that are applicable to you when showing that type of content?
Yeah, I mean, this is it. This is where I think it's this type of effect is going to get more and more important in time, because we have things like the GDPR laws where you have privacy, and if you're a company with any sort of CCTV around, if you've recorded someone, they're able to ask for a recording of that, but you actually don't want to give out a recording of everyone around. So a lot of the time you actually have to sort of blur out some of the other stuff, and that's been a bit of a challenge before, but you've had to do it because that's the law. So where these are going to get more and more important is where places are getting more and more privacy focused. And I think that's that's actually quite quite a growth sort of area. I mean, even on YouTube, there's a kind of cottage industry of live streamers who will stream everything that they do. Like if they're door dashers or something like that, they'll go out and they'll be streaming and monetizing that stuff. If you're doing that in Europe, because you're making money out of it, there's actually
Yeah.
a kind of you actually have to be kind of blurring out anything that makes people identifiable. So you can't just sort of film someone's home as you go up to see it. So having these tools like the witness protection tool to take out faces, the license plate tool to take out license plates. It's automating all of this stuff that would otherwise take up a lot of time and a lot of effort. And even if it doesn't get there 100% of the time,
Yeah.
you've got a good start. You don't have to be tracking 30 plates now,
Yep.
or doing one big giant blur that makes everything kind of completely illegible. You've got most of the work done for you.
Yeah, and these are the things that as a video editor, like you have to do, but you don't want to do this. This is
That's right.
this is just tasks that you need to work through, and to have this form of automation where you can complete this a lot faster and then be able to concentrate more on story or additional elements, I think is a huge time saver. The other
Yeah.
thing I forgot to mention, besides the implementation of Mocha and those effects and having that flexibility, is that um, if something walks in front of a license plate, it more than likely, as long as it doesn't look like a license plate, it will ignore that and it will just turn off license plate for the time being. So you don't have to go in and manually track it. So there were several examples where people just walk by license plates that were close up in the scene. And I saw it where it'll just hide the license plate when it is obscured and then pick up on it again, which again is a huge time saver.
Now, a lot of these systems that are doing kind of witness protection or blurring, they operate in the cloud. Is
Yeah.
is Continuum operating in the cloud? Is it sending data up and down anywhere?
There is no cloud. It is all local, which is awesome too. So like when you download Continuum through the Boris FX Hub or with the native installer, you are getting ML to work locally on your system, which I think is great. And they're also
Yeah,
very
I think
fast too,
that's
both of the
it's
effects.
it's that's obviously crucial if you're law enforcement, or you are dealing with any sort of sensitive kind of data. You can't sort of just send that to random computers somewhere. Everything has to be vetted and
Yeah.
approved. So yeah, all of the Boris effects ML tools that we've created in house only work on your computer, or they work on your computer. They're on-prem processing. The one exception to that is where we are using Stability AI's API to do some work in
Inside
particle
of particle
illusion.
illusion. Yeah.
You know, that's it. But all of the image restoration stuff, like the denoising, all the blurring, the motion blur stuff that we saw earlier, all of that's happening on your machine, so it's not getting sent anywhere. With that in mind, I have a question from chat, which is
Yes.
how powerful should my system be to be able to use all that blur, etc., and can it be used in real time?
Uh, I didn't get quite real time with that, just to let you know, but I mean it is fairly fast in most cases, but it still produced a red render line when I'm inside of Premiere Pro. In terms of system specs, it's best to just check out the Continuum page for meeting those specs and also making sure that in the NLE that you are currently working with, that is supported your host as well in order to have the best optimization experiences when using these tools.
Yeah. The other thing to think about is, because these machine learning models can be quite big,
Yeah.
if you thought your graphics card was important before, your graphics card, and specifically the amount of RAM on your graphics card is much more important now, and is only going to get more important in the future, I would assume.
Yeah, and talking about just models, that's I think a great other point about all the ML tools inside of Continuum, Ben. Many of these are on version one. So as
Yeah.
Continuum develops, and we put out new versions, I think we're going to start to see improved versions of these models in the near future.
I mean, that's been one of my favorite things about the denoise models as well, is that, from version one, it quickly went to version 2 to 2.1 to 3 to
Yeah.
3.1. And each of those models has, some slight different, tuning towards it. But the fact that denoise, for example, is, twice as fast now as it
Mm.
was a year ago. I think that's pretty nice to see.
Yeah. And it's just nice that along with when we're talking about witness protection and license plate ML, that they are like easy to use. Like you get a result immediately, and then extra added control to change these things. So I like the fact that the speed is headed in the right direction with those models, as well as the improvement that we're going to see.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, should we give something away?
Yes, we
We've
should.
spoken about it, and people have had a little look. Let's give away a copy of Continuum now. If you're enjoying the stream, of course, remember to give us one of those. It's a little thumbs up. If you're subscribed to us, you might even get a little burst of fireworks or confetti or whatever it is that YouTube has decided is going to be the graphical interaction of the day. So give that a go. See if it works for you. And just get that little dopamine rush that you want. Of course, if you want to join us after the stream, we will always be hanging about in the Discord channel. So that's www.boriseffectsdiscord.com as well. But let's give away some stuff. I've got a 1 year subscription of Continuum going to one lucky winner, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the tombola of joy fired up. Our first prize is going to Lauren Chavez Calles. Lauren, congratulations. You are our first winner of the stream. Well done. All Lauren did is she headed over to boriseffectslive.com. She went down to the bottom of the page and she added her details to the little form that's right there, and she just hit OK, and that was it. That's all she did. And you could do that as well. boriseffectslive.com. There's still time. We're going to give away another 1 year subscription of Continuum, and we're also going to be giving away a 1 year subscription to the Boris Effects suite as well, which is the big one. It's everything that we make, and that's all going to be given away in a very short space of time. All right, because we are live, we want to still keep getting those questions and comments coming in. I do enjoy a good comment. We've had some good questions already. Give us more, please. There is still time. But we're going to take a little change of gear now. We're going to move away from the machine learning part of the new features. And I'm going to talk a little bit about particle illusion, which is our particle generator system. Now, this is something that obviously has been being developed very quickly over the past few years, and there's been a huge amount of focus being put on trying to make this as fun, flexible, and usable as possible, even for people who don't enjoy generally messing around with particles. They like the end result, but they don't like all the little scratching around trying to get the particles to explode in a certain way. So we've done some more stuff, and who better to explain some of the new features than Mr. John Dickinson? He is phoning in all the way from Australia. So let's see if Mr. John Dickinson is on the other end of the satellite. We're just going to roll VT, please.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, everyone. Particle Illusion 2025 has a great new repeat animation feature. So what I'd like to do is just spend the next few minutes walking you through that and just demonstrating to you how you can use it and how you might want to integrate that into your particle illusion workflow. So let's just jump straight in. What I'm going to do here is I really want to make it clear to you how much particle illusion is a preset driven workflow. I mean, it's always had a lot of presets, but a lot of the tools now are preset driven as well. And I really don't have to do very much to get a lot out of particle illusion. So let's just take a look at how that works. What I'm going to do first of all is use a preset. So I've already done a little search for smooth here, and I want this smooth trail wispy. I can click and drag here and just get a little preview of that. So that's quite nice. So what I'll do, I'm going to add it into the stage, but there's never been a really clear way to do that, but until now. Now we have an add option here. So click on the add button and that adds it onto the stage, okay? So it looks a little strange, but what I want to do is use a preset for position by right-clicking and choosing load preset. I'm going to choose this ECG or heartbeat. Click apply. I'm going to accept the defaults, and you can see it's added some keyframes, and there it goes across the stage, and it's got that cool sort of squiggle animation at the end. And you can see down here in my value graph, there's the keyframes in the value graph, okay? So it's an ECG, right? So you expect it to keep, moving across the screen. And we could do that by, coming down here and doing it manually, but this is where repeat animation really works well. So I'm going to right click on the position parameter and choose repeat parameter animation. And there you go. There's my second cycle down here in the value graph. And in this dialog box, what I can do is I can add more repeats. If I want to, I can add some frames between each. And if I want to hold the value until it reaches the next repeat or cycle, I can hold that there. And you can see what's down here as I drag the frames between cycles. See how it adds space there? That's going to hold it for a moment, and then it's going to repeat it. So now I have this situation where I've got it finishing the first repeat or the first cycle, and then it goes back and does it again. So that's all automated, right? How cool is that? So I'm going to undo that. Just want to show you one other thing with this. I'm going to repeat, but this time I'm going to reverse alternate cycles and maybe repeat twice. So now it's going to do a sort of ping pong move. So if we apply that, it'll go to one side and then it will come back the other way, which is a bit unusual for an ECG, but you can see how that might be good for creating sort of ping pong, sort of tennis style animations. Very nice. Let's just build something from this really quickly. So what I'll do is just zoom out a little bit there. I'm going to repeat it maybe 6 times, and I'll hold it and I will put a bit of space between like that. Okay, so we've got some repeats there. So that's all looking good. So what I might do now is just duplicate that. And I don't want the same one, so I'm going to use this squiggle into place. So if I select that, it's this one here. It's a little more squiggly from the start, or a lot more squiggly. I want to replace that. So all I have to do is right-click on the node and choose Replace with Library Emitter. So now we have the same animation for position for both of them, but we've got a different emitter. Like that, right? Pretty nice. Now, I want to use this this warmer gradient, and I could come up to this one and double click. I could load a preset if I had that as a preset, or I could save this one and then load it onto this one. But there's a much faster way now. What I can do is just click on the gradient, hold down Alt, and drag it. Any of you who use particle illusion will know how great that is. It's such a time saver. Imagine if I had 10 particles in here and I wanted all the same. I could just quickly drag and drop, and that'd be updated. So that's looking a little more integrated now, right? Very nice. If I wanted to change that, I could come load the preset, make it maybe cool, click apply, Alt drag. There we go. Changed. It took seconds. You can also right click and you can choose copy and paste. You can also do it with alpha gradients, which is great for the opacity of the particles. And you can copy the particle image. What if we change the particle type? And I just choose something a little stronger here, like power palette. Not quite as soft. Okay, I want it on the other one, so just Alt drag, bang. Okay, and done. So I loaded a preset. I loaded the position keyframes, and I copied and I loaded another emitter and just replaced it, and I copied and I just dragged the gradients to copy them. So literally takes seconds to set things up, and I'm loving this workflow in Particle Illusion. Let's take a look at a different example. Okay, so here we have a fireworks burst. So this is a preset. So a burst of fireworks or a burst of sparks. And obviously, if it was sparks, it'd be more likely to be consistent, right? You get bursts, more than one burst of sparks. So repeat will work really well here as well. So I'll select it. This is actually a super emitter. So I'm going to, rather than repeat position, I'm going to repeat the number, and I have to actually select this one here. So this is actually F number because this is a super emitter. So if we click on number, you can see if I just zoom in there, there's a couple of keyframes there. So I'm going to right click and choose repeat and just drag out a few copies, a few cycles, put some frames in between. I want to have a hold between them. So click OK. And now we've got a little hole between each burst, right? Doesn't look that natural. Looks a bit, it doesn't look so realistic. So this is what we can do. I'm going to undo. I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to repeat. Again, hold, and add a little bit of space between them. But now I'm going to play with the cycle, the scale factor. So if I bring that right down, obviously we're going to have more particles there and less there. So if I click OK now, watch what happens. I get more for the first one, a few less, a few less, a few less, and then just a couple little teeny ones at the end, right? And obviously you can continue to play with velocity values and all kinds of things to make this look even more realistic. What if you wanted to adjust the value graph? Well, you can. You just come in down here and you can fine tune, right? There's no problem with that. You can actually adjust it. I try to avoid playing around in here because I don't really need to very much. It's good to have that option. So I kind of like that, but it's not actually long enough. I want it a little longer. So all you have to do is repeat it again. Just right click, repeat, and there you go. You can see it's there. I want to add some frames between. Just slide that. You can see it's very responsive. And apply. And there we go. I mean, you might want to have, this one to be a lot less. And then you might want to have this one to be a lot more. So you can go in and fine tune, right? Okay, so here we've got a quick setup created by Alan. And this is just a glitter fountain, and you can see it's spinning. It's a 3D emitter, and it's spinning around. So it's been animated to rotate. So if I select it, you can see we have the red boxes, which show that this has been keyframed. So this is the angle. There's the keyframes. But it stopped spinning, right? So I want to extend that. And once again, all I've got to do is right click on the keyframe parameter, in this case, angle, repeat, and repeat. And there we go, extended animation. So very, very useful. And you can basically use it with any keyframe parameter. And I haven't tried it with everything, but you can see how useful that could be for all kinds of things. What I might just do very quickly here is, can't help myself, is turn on lines here. So let me just find that. I could also just search for it. So I could type in lines. There's lines down there. So I just want to draw trails. Whoa, there we go. So a few nice trails for that as well. Very nice. So the new repeat animation tools, the new copy and paste gradients and particles, and a great new add button to save time. So all further moving particle illusion towards that preset driven workflow. And there's a whole bunch of great new presets from Alan and Ben included as well. All right, so just a quick overview there. I'm going to pass back to Ben.
Well, thank you very much, John, for that. Much appreciated. Nick, what did you think of that?
I thought it was great. I think that, over the last few versions of particle illusion, some of my favorite happened to be small things that just make the workflow so much more efficient. So if we're going back to, correct me if I'm wrong, but 2024.5, you've got the search feature also mixed
Yes.
with the ability to easily search and find things that are inside the software. I'm drawing a blank. Oh yes, the other thing was just the ability to take a particle system and have it animate around a line, and to see all of the different line animations that could then trigger an animation
Oh, yeah.
without the need to keyframe. And this story just sort of continues in that nice direction of these small usability features like copying and pasting gradients or alpha channels and how easy that is. And then where John was showing just how you could repeat and don't have to go through that process of keyframing everything. You could just repeat that cycle. And that's exactly what you want from like a particle system.
Yeah.
I find that the particle illusion is so massively filled with presets that sometimes it's not easy to get a grasp on everything that's in there. So I was wondering from you, Ben, you were involved in creating some of those new presets that we see in 2025. Like, can you take us through maybe a couple extras and some of your favorites and how you could use them in practical situations?
Yeah, sure. Let's have a little look. I'm going to just I've got Premiere opened at the moment because this is one of the things that I kind of like about particle illusion. It is the whole idea of it is particles for the rest of us. So we do have this kind of big preset driven workflow where you can get in and you can, let's just see, did I press apply? That I did. I'm trying to make sure this, you can tell we're live because I'm trying to make sure that we get the perfect size on here. Here we go. Yeah, so like what we've got with the presets is obviously we've got libraries dating back for the last few years. And one of the things that I sort of try to do is in discussion with Alan and John and everyone else in the team who starts to make these presets up, is we try to sort of like have a kind of theme or a couple of themes that we're working on when it comes to these presets. I mean, there's that one that you were talking about where I could just click and drag something around and it would repeat that same motion just in the preview window, and we can just see if any of these are going to work well with that particular motion. But yeah, with the last one, with the 2024, let's stop the animation there. What we had was zoom out a little bit there, zoom to fit, 25%, there we go. Yeah, we had ones that were kind of very much based off of text. So that was the whole idea, was to have these things that would react to text. And in 2025, we kind of went and did these kind of nice, fun, I'm not going to say anime style backgrounds, but kind of motiony background type things, which I kind of enjoy a lot. And yeah, some of these ones that Alan created are just absolutely gorgeous, like the whole glittery light type things are really nice. But one little trick I want to show you here. I'm going to try any of the light curtains. Let's go. We're not in 4K. We're just here. There we go. Light curtain 4. Let's take the presets out of the way so we can see this a bit better. Zoom to fit. Yeah, you can see that this light curtain is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different particle types, all with different blend modes and their own different sort of way of coloring the particles over life. And this is quite a nice effect, but if I wanted this angle to be different, because of the way this is made up, it's made up in 3D, and we do have like searching for angle, as you talked about earlier. You can, you know, search for angle and try and change that up, but because we've got so many of these things, we'd have to change it in 5 different places. Except we can happily turn this from a 3D in, because it's just a background, we turn this from a 3D into a 2D image, and now all I have to do is just come into the layer itself, and I can just with one simple control, I can change the direction of that completely. If I hit apply on that, and we come back into Premiere, you know, we do get the red line that says it can't play this back in real time, but it's doing all right. It's playing it back pretty nicely. It's one of the nice things about particle illusion. It is nice and fast. And if I turn that down to quarter res, I'm pretty sure that I can get real-time playback on that. So there's tons of little tricks that we can start to do, and I'd love to say more, but we've got to keep this train rolling. If you want to learn more about particle illusion, head over to the Boris FX website and go to our training area, and we have lots and lots of videos all about all of the new features. So not just particle illusion, but you know, specifically particle illusion in this place. Just take a look at our latest videos, or we've got a gorgeous little search. So if you just type in particle or something like that, then you can come in and just see all of the videos that we've created about these. And we are, I don't know, I don't want to say churning videos out, because it makes it sound like there's no sort of care done to it, but actually we're creating these videos with a huge sort of speed to try and get people working and try and think of these videos or think of these effects in a different way. So they're not kind of just effects in a vacuum. They're kind of this whole big you know, inspirational type of thing. So you can easily come in and get a very different look in quite a straightforward sort of way. And some of these are 5 minutes long, some of them are half an hour long. You can choose what you like, but it's a huge library. And if you want to go a bit deeper, we have essential courses for Synthesize, for Mocha Pro, for Silhouette, and of course Nick's very own Continuum in Avid and Continuum Essentials courses, which are you know, wonderful. Look at that very, very clean shaven, clean haired Nick. That's a Nick that I haven't seen in a little while.
A little while, right?
Yeah. So do that. Where else can people, or how else can people learn about these effects, Nick?
Well, I definitely, if you haven't checked out the Continuum Essentials, like you were saying, Ben, there's one available for both Premiere and Avid. Those are great overview of all of the effects and just sort of touching the multiple areas of Continuum and where you can go. In addition, you know, our live stream content, like right today, we do cover a lot of stuff. We also hear from industry experts along the lines of Continuum and just using the Boris FX suite as a whole. And another resource, definitely check out YouTube. You know, we are, like you're talking about the machine, putting out videos on Continuum and general use cases in multiple hosts. And we have heard, I know there was some comments even today about more stuff in Resolve where it comes to Continuum. So check out, number one, the YouTube channel for something that you recently did, Ben. And I actually go through, like you're mentioning today, very shortly, some stuff in Resolve with transitions.
And I think actually the video that you're referring to hasn't been made public yet. So shh. But actually, that's probably that's more reason for people to hit the subscribe button to actually understand when a new video is out there. Cool. Thank you, Nick. Are you going to hang around for a little bit? I've got I want to talk transitions with you in a couple of minutes, if that's all right.
Yeah, let's talk transitions in a couple of minutes. That sounds great.
All right. Okay. Well, if you're enjoying the stream, you're watching Boris Effects live, hit that little thumbs up button for me. It costs you nothing. It means a great deal to me personally, but also to everyone else who is in mission control and behind the scenes. That little thumbs up, it really helps keep pushing us through. Of course, we're also going to be giving away some more stuff in just a moment. If you haven't done so already, there is still time to enter our prize draw. Just head over to borisfxlive.com, scroll to the bottom of the page and enter your details in there in some, some would call it a tippy tap sort of motion. I would definitely never call it that at all. Full terms and conditions apply, of course, and they can be found on borisfxlive.com. Alrighty, let's give away another copy of Continuum, shall we? We've been talking about Continuum a lot today, so let's make sure that one more person can get it for free. So I'm going to give away a 1-year subscription. I'm rolling up the tombola here, and our second Continuum is going to Buddy Geen. Buddy, congratulations, you are our second lucky winner today at Boris FX Live, walking away with a 1-year subscription of Continuum. We will be in contact within the next 24 hours to tell you not how you can claim your prize, because you've already won it, but just telling you how you can download it. If you want to actually give Continuum a try, go to borisfx.com. There is a free trial of Continuum and all the Boris FX products that you can give it a go there. Alrighty, let's take a look at another little thing. Nick, are you still here?
I'm still here.
Oh, can't get rid of you that easily. What we're gonna talk about now?
I think we're going to talk about some new transitions that came out in 2025.
Oh, this sounds like a very good idea. Is this Nick number 4 that I'm going to be talking to?
Well, it depends, because we did show the picture from the Continuum Essentials with me clean shaven. So depending, I think we have to leave it up to the audience, but I'm going to say it's Nick number 5.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, Nick number 5, talk to me about some of the new transitions in Continuum 2025.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Past Nick here once again. And I even come with a new shirt because we're going over something new. This time, we're going to take a look at our new transitions. There are 4 in total. That includes Smoke and Fog Dissolve, Atmospheric Glow Dissolve, Orbs, and Smoke Wipe. I'm going to be demonstrating these inside of Resolve, but you can do the same workflow in any host that you're comfortable with. Okay, I have 2 shots here in the timeline, and what I'd like to do is add Smoke and Fog Dissolve to them just here at the edit point. So I'm going to stop playback, and I'm just going to reveal all of my effects. And you're going to find transitions under Open Effects Transitions, and in the subcategory, go to BCC+. So there's Smoke and Fog Dissolve. Great thing about Resolve is that we can actually preview this transition by just skimming over the effect. So we can see the outgoing and incoming clip. If I select the transition, I'll just drag it as a center on edit here in the timeline. And paying attention to the inspector, I'm already on the transition tab. I'm going to click on the effects editor to see some of the presets that ship with this. So I can just simply click on these presets one by one. Another little handy feature just to keep in mind is you can use your arrow keys as well. Now we've added something new to Smoke and Fog Dissolve, Smoke Wipe, and Atmospheric Glow Dissolve, as well as the effect counterparts. And that's the ability to actually preview the textures involved with the smoke transition. What I'll do is select the texture dip through black. And what it does is it switches all of the parameters that you see over here on the right-hand side. Now, one major component of Smoke and Fog Dissolve, as well as Smoke Wipe, is the sprite. And all of the sprites that you have access to are just below the presets. If I click on a sprite, the sprite updates, but all of the parameters that were switched in the preset do not. So we can get a different smoky texture involved with a preset and then be able to tweak this further depending on what we're looking for. So I'll actually switch off this just to the grungy spot preset and then just select the black hole texture, in this case mixing it in. And you can see that it also updates over here to the side where it says now to the black hole sprite, which I just selected. Another thing to keep in mind when you're playing around with smoky looks is to compare Smoke and Fog Dissolve to smoke wipe. So right now the smoke is involved, of course, in dissolve-based transition, but instead we can use the black, white, and gray information to act as a wipe and a reveal of our second incoming clip. I'll select the transition here in the timeline, smoke wipe above, and then just replace the transition. And we can see now how that smoke is being used as a reveal for my incoming clip. Let's head back into the effects editor. Still got our presets over here to the side that we can audition. And depending on how we would like to wipe in the incoming clip, we do have some control once we find a preset that we like. So I like set on fire. And what I'm going to do under the smoke parameters is just play with the random seed. As I'm scrubbing this is deciding which parts of the image to reveal first. Let me just move a little bit later, play with that random seed further so you can see now I have something much closer to what I like to reveal first. And if I'm not happy with the smoke texture, again, you can start to play around with the various smoke textures that are here. Once you land on something that you like, of course, play that back. And we have improved our caching as well in Continuum 2025. So I'm going to take this, the fine spray, and just press apply in order to bring it back into the host. And now we can see the transitions end result. Okay, let's take a look at another example, and that's atmospheric glow. Atmospheric glow is composed of several glow and atmospheric effects all in one, kind of giving you a super transition. So if we just head up in our BCC Plus transitions, here's atmospheric glow. I'll apply that to the edit point, and we see a glow mixed with rays, as well as an orbs-based effect that's being involved to dissolve into the incoming clip. Once again, I'll head over to the Transition tab, head to the Effects Editor. You can see all of the components of atmospheric glow over here to the side, the parameters. So that's glow, volumetric rays, smoke, prism, grain, orbs, and vignette. And what I'll do is, first of all, just try a few presets. And I like these prismatic rays and left to right. And this is something that I'm going to note to you here. If we take a look at the rays animation, we can see that they animate from one side of the screen to the other. If I expand the parameters here, that's because the source animation is start to set and end. The same thing is available in our new orbs dissolve for orbs, where we can have orbs animate from left to right, top to bottom of the screen by simply changing the source start and source end values. And because of these different X values, here's the animation that we get. In this particular case, I just want to reverse this. So I want to enter -111 into the source start and 111 into the source right. Press play again. You can see that animation starting on the one side of the screen, moving over to the other. I'll apply that, and we can see once again that that updates here inside of our host. Now, one other really cool thing about our transitions when working in Resolve that you should know about is if you select the transition, and here in the viewer at the top, if I go to the menu on the bottom left, there's an Open Effects Overlay. And for our transitions, we have an easing curve that you can take advantage of. So how we can ease in and ease out of the transition available to us, not to mention something that will affect the timing here in the middle. This just allows us to have full control over the speed of our transition and even the fine tuning of how we ramp up to the glow and then ramp down. Atmospheric glow is definitely worth exploring. There are several elements like orbs, along with grain, which you can enable to create your desired transition. Now, last but not least, while not transition related, we've made a major update into Resolve when it comes to our effects. So if you're someone who works inside of Fusion, you'll see the clip that I'm currently parked over here in the timeline. We now have full support of Fusion inside of DaVinci Resolve. If I come over to any of these BCC effects, for instance, if I come to BCC Lens, I'll just apply a lens distortion node to my tree. I can see here with the distortion selected, I'm able to make adjustments right inside of the Fusion page, not to mention, of course, head into the effects editor where I can preview all of these BCC Plus presets for this given effect. I'll apply that and head back to the Fusion page. So there you have it, 4 new transitions that are included in Continuum 2025, not to mention our update for all BCC Plus effects when it comes to the Fusion page inside of DaVinci Resolve. Back to you, Ben.
Well, thank you very much, Nick number 5. Nick number 1, there is so much there in just those few minutes that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pick apart which one to go to first, and actually I think it's going to be Fusion, because we we'll do the recency bias there. Continuum in Fusion inside of Resolve. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, well, now it's supported inside of Resolve. It's now supported. So you can apply the effects to your favorite node workflow and integrate it, and also have access to the effects editor and all of the presets that we've been talking about as well.
Yeah, it's really huge. I really love that, because there's been so many times where I've kind of wanted a continuum effect inside of Fusion, and it's always been a bit of a kind of a toss up whether it worked or not, because sometimes the effect would work, but all of the controls would be in the wrong order, and it would just be really annoying. But now everything's working, and I'm really happy. I think this is probably one of the my favorite unsung features of Continuum 2025.
It's a nice feature just to having that expanded workflow, I think, inside of the Resolve, and it then just makes me reflect on how many different apps Continuum works in. This was one of the times where during the webinar, I went through each of the different types of software, from Avid to After Effects to Premiere to Resolve, and there's still 2-3 other applications that we haven't covered that Continuum supports. So I think that having that flexibility in a Resolve workflow is great. And, I always like to refer to cross-platform workflows as well. Something that I think could even be tapped more into. Me working inside of Premiere is mostly how I edit. And for me to share a preset with someone in Resolve who might be in a later stage of color correction or visual effects is just such a handy feature,
Absolutely. And I think you also showed something that I think a lot of people overlook, especially when dealing with the transitions inside of Resolve in the edit page. One of the biggest questions that I get asked is that, why aren't I seeing those lovely little curves that you always show in your demos? And it's like, well, they're there, but you've got to click the button that says OFX and turn on the OFX overlays. And that's probably the number one tip that I could give to Resolve users to when working with transitions inside of Resolve. Like, turn those on, and all of a sudden this whole world of customization sort of opens up directly in your viewer.
Yeah, and just I think in general, when I think about Continuum transitions, the fact that we have that easing built into every single one of them is fantastic. Not to mention the ability to also add color correction into the mix of all of the BCC Plus transitions, the new ones and our older ones combined. That mentioned with, like, to me, just as someone who wants to play around with UI controls, whether that be in Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve is also a huge help to pull on the easing curves at the beginning and end, and not having to jump into a separate window to do that. So with Resolve, turning on the open effects overlay in Premiere, clicking at the top of the effect in effect controls is just going to allow you to have that flexibility of getting that perfect timing with a transition.
And it's that visual cue as well. It's like you can do it over in the parameters, either way, just with the smoothing, but it's being able to see that curve and being able to work with that curve directly. That's the alpha and omega for me. I really enjoy that. One more thing though, one of the other things that I really enjoy that's a new feature inside of those transitions with the smoke is being able to just translate, or sorry, just kind of transfer or swap out the sprite that you're using to drive the transition. Why is that important?
I think number one, we have so many different sprites to choose from. And beforehand, it was just available in a drop down. So we didn't get a, a visual for the sprite. So to have a visual for the sprite, but also to select a preset ahead of time, then go, you know what? I just want a different type of smoke. Now you can have the best of both worlds. You have the preset, and then you have the smoke sprite that you can swap out from a visual icon. So that, Ben, I think is one of my favorite features is that addition of those sprites and having that visual. But another one that's worth mentioning, which I showed when we hopped over to atmospheric glow, and is orbs as well, is that there's a auto animation feature in
Yes.
some of our transitions. So with orbs, if you change the source animation mode, it will automatically just animate your orbs across the screen from left to right or up to down without you having to drag them into place. And having that additional animation mixed in with the dissolve, I think opens up a world of possibilities. So with atmospheric glow, that was with rays, and this is in several other transitions as well, and they're standalone counterparts that you could take advantage of.
Yeah, I think that's it's very cool. It's a way of getting animation basically for free with the rest of the transition,
Yeah,
and it makes a big difference.
yeah,
I
we're
do have a question. I do have a
yes,
question
please.
from chat. Photo 911. Is it possible to create your own sprite and import it?
The answer is yes. You can actually create your own sprite, and there's a specific location on your system where you can put this sprite, and Continuum will see it. Do I know this
Hidden.
location off the top of my head? No. But we'll make sure if you want to reach out to try to put that into the chat, the actual application of where you could put the sprite for her to see it.
Better off go to the Discord channel
Yeah.
at www.borisfxdiscord.com, and then go into the Continuum channel there, and we can figure it out from there. That's probably easier and a little bit more permanent. But yeah, I think there was a quick. Oh, I'm not going to say a quick tip, a quick cheat that you showed about that a little while ago with one of the other effects. So yeah, it is possible, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I think both that well, smoke and fog has an effect counterpart, and I believe that we showed that in some sort of quick tip there or a live stream. But regardless, I'll try to get the location on both the Mac and PC, and we'll make it permanent on Discord.
Cool, very good. Um, I think we've run out of time now. There's so
Yeah.
much to talk about still. Like Continuing 2025 is actually a really big release. There's like tons of new stuff, tons of improvements. Um, Give me your favorite improvement that we haven't already talked about. Go.
Ooh, favorite improvement that we haven't talked about. The addition of overall presets. I think that we've seen them in particle illusion. You saw some of the presets with our newer effects, but we went through several different categories. This is everywhere from different glows to transitions to one of my favorite effects, which is BCC plus light. And we just added more. And I think having those additional presets, which you can discover in the effects editor, just gives you a starting point for creativity, and an anchor to kind of say, okay, what can this effect do? Um, and since I'm just always like presets number one, another one to look at, although really small, is BCC plus grain. And it's like adding those final touches to video like motion blur and grain that can really help a composite breathe life into a composite. I think you did a lot of the presets for grain, didn't you, Ben?
I did do a lot of the presets for grain. Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's like it is a different type of grain than ultra grain that we see in Sapphire, but it's one of those. It's a really nice fast grain, and like you said, it can make the difference. If you're working with Continuum and you just want a quick bit of grain over there, it's there, and it lets you kind of tune the tonal ranges where the grain is applied. Yeah, it's fun, and it's called BCC plus grain. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
I say one of my favorite, one thing that you didn't mention when you were talking about presets is actually in BCC Plus Transform, and there's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like loads of little aspect ratio changes, like 16 by 9 to 4 by 3 or to 9:16. Like there's loads of ones in there that are just like utility presets that I use constantly, and I'm really glad that they're there, because I've missed them, and I've used them so much in the last few weeks. I can't tell you.
Yeah, those are really nice to have, like those small ones. And then just when you think about the presets and then just Continuum as this whole of 200 effects, and
Yeah.
the new features that we showed, like Motion Blur ML, as one small item in a massive workflow, like NLE or motion graphics, I think it really adds a nice story for this release.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about, some of the like the not new things, but the ones that
Yeah.
I use all the time, like Primat and all of the color stuff and all the matte stuff, in addition to the denoising and all the grain and just bringing all that. Yeah, it's too much. We can't go on. We've got to stop. We've got to stop. Um, one last question in the chat. One feature that would be interesting to see is something like an AI-driven effect editor where users could simply write a prompt describing the desired effect and Continuum would generate it. Winky smiley face.
I love it. Make this video good. Generate.
Yeah, I love it.
No, but
I love it. Yeah.
yeah,
We are very receptive to suggestions. So
yeah,
yeah, if you do have feature requests, Discord, the forums, here in YouTube comments, we're always open. We always we read all the comments. We respond to almost all the comments that we can. Yeah, just make yourself heard.
yeah.
We'll get to them.
And this feedback, especially when you start to play with some of these new tools, we're uh, talking to engineering and just making them better each time, the ML and some of our past BCC Plus tools. So definitely try to reach out to us as you start to play with these.
Absolutely. We've got to go. We've got Barbara is asking, can we talk briefly about UpRes? Is UpRes a plugin? Very briefly, you got 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is in Continuum. You can apply it in your chosen host, and it's going to up-res your footage all the way up to 4 times in terms of its size. But yeah, you can apply it into the footage, and there's 2 different ways of using it. Since I only have 30 seconds, I'm just going to, if you do a search on the YouTube page or on our main page, looking at videos, and you look at Continuum, you'll find a couple videos dedicated to UpRes and some workflows. And in the Continuum Essentials Avid, I also, if you are using Avid Media Composer, you can check out a specific UpRes workflow in that piece of software as well.
Yep, absolutely. I think the way you use it in Avid to make up new camera angles that didn't exist is very smart. It's a great way of using it. And I think we're seeing you with a beard there as well. So
yes,
we know that these have been made very recently.
Yes, beard or tan, you'll know it was this year. Or
Nick, thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to bid you farewell for now. We may speak off stream at some point in the near future, or
yes,
maybe not. This could be our interaction. People just don't know whether we talk together off stream or on
exactly
stream only.
A present interaction.
Exactly. All right, Nick, thank you very much for taking us through. We've got one more thing that we need to do, and you've got one more thing that I would like you to do, but it is not contractually obligated. If you've enjoyed the stream up till now and you've watched for about an hour and a half, so basically hit that button if you haven't done so before. Little thumbs up button for us. That would be very grand. But I want to give away some more prizes. I've already given away 2 copies of Continuum today. I've got one more thing to give away, and that is a 1-year subscription to the Boris Effects Suite. This is everything that we make, including Continuum that we've seen today, but also Sapphire, Silhouette, Mocha Pro, Crumple Pop, Synthesize, Particle Illusion Pro. The other one, I've said Crumple Pop. Optics, of course, Optics and Silhouette, which I'm sure I've said, but I'm going to say Silhouette again for extra value there. Is everything. It's everything. It's going to one lucky person. All they did was go to Boris FX Live and enter their name. Simple as that. That could be you in the next stream. It's not going to be you now. I'm going to roll my holy tombola. Let's give it a go. Oh, we've got it going. Our Boris FX suite is going to Jean Delestre or Jean Delestre. Jean or Jean, congratulations. You are our third and final winner of the stream. You're going to be going away with a 1-year subscription to the Boris FX suite. Congratulations to you. And of course, congratulations to all of our viewers today. If you didn't win today, there's always next stream. And of course, if you want to give Continuum or any of our products a free trial, head over to borisfx.com and there is a free trial available to you. Of course, you can also download the hub and do all of your application management through the Boris FX hub. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks, of course, to our guests, Nick Haraz and John Dickinson. And my name is Ben Brownlee for Boris FX. I will see you in another Boris FX Live very, very soon. Bye for now.